Hey, and welcome to Real Truth Talks. I have been asked to, well, I've actually been asked to write, and I'm not very good at it. Um, I have a trouble with getting my thoughts down on paper and in a synchronous form at all. Um, so rambling is better for me, and looking for someone to help me write. But in the meantime, I've also been asked by some wounded warrior wives, not widows yet, but wives, to keep talking because we experience very similar things. So that's what I'm going to start doing. I kind of started being quiet, sweaty, out doing yard work because I was being victim shamed um, by, well, honestly, the only people my my beloved husband's friends and family, certain ones, not all. And um, so I just didn't want to talk. I was sick and tired of hearing the BS. And it's just like, you don't know. But the, and I don't, it's not like I want revenge, but for me, this is what happened. This is the truth. And there are many of us who go through this and we feel alone. Um, While I don't like labeling, my husband narcissist. He had narcissistic traits. He did narcissistic things. He was a wounded warrior. I'm not taken away. I love so much about him, but in his personal life, in the romantic, having a personal relationship with him, no. Because I heard what he said about his first wife. I heard what he said about his other mistresses slash girlfriends, immoral women that he hooked up with, um, had pathetic relationships with. And then I heard what he told his immoral woman that he hooked up with, and I really think she's a narcissist as well from the interactions that I had with her. Um, what he told her, what she told me about me, and the only place that she got that was from him, and then his friends and family, what they said about me. And you know what? He said the same things about me that he said about his first wife, that he said about his other immoral women. I'm not even going to give him the honor of calling them mistresses. They knew what they were doing. But, and it is, we need to stick together. We need to know that we're not alone. You can't really stick together because life with them is all encompassing. And I'm just talking to military wives, and or significant others. If you're the mistress don't want to really talk to you, you can listen, because if they're doing these things, they will do it to you. Don't think you're special. And I learned that the hard way. But everything, I'm going to put a link in the description. It's talking about Darvo. Didn't know what that was till I just listened to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's called Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim. Darvo. Victim, reverse victim. Wow, shoot, no, I can't think of the word. Anyway, the one that did it. And that's going to drive me crazy, but it'll come to me later. Anyway, as much as I love my husband, and I did not love anybody, and I've never loved a man more than this guy. And I honor his service, I honor him, and until the day he died, I advocated for him. Sometimes it took tough love. And I didn't know how to do it, but the Lord took care of that, because finally my husband got himself arrested again for the last time. And he was held accountable, not by not by me, but by the court system, because had not been his first arrest. And later, nothing like dying to clarify things, and he said, I'm really glad that I was arrested, because that's what it took for me to realize the problem was me, and that I really had a problem. And he said, it made me kind of wish you wouldn't have bailed me out the first time. And I said, well, it is what it is. We don't have time to sit here and regret things, because we need to make the most of what time you have. And thankfully, he quote saw the light. He tried to right the wrongs that he had done, because so many of us are treated as offender. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. They're the offenders. Yes, maybe they've been victimized, but then they turn around and they victimize the ones that they say they love the most, their wives and their families. And I did everything that's in this. I thought I was crazy. I didn't understand. I'm autistic, right? So if I trust you, I trust you. That's changed. My husband has changed that. And in spite of that, because if you're my person, if you imprint on me, or I imprint on you, and I bond with you, I'm loyal to you. I was always loyal to my spouses until I divorced them, my previous two. And because I just believe, there's that stupid innocence that I believe you, and I have ability to see what you were meant to be, maybe not the reality of what's going on. And he made me feel crazy. The things he would deny everything. I would have bruises and whatnot, or he'd hit me, or he'd choke me, or something, and I don't remember that. I didn't do it. I was never much of a drinker, till I hung out with him, and he drank all the time. I didn't know how much, and if something happened, he goes, well, how do you remember? How do you remember that, right? You were drinking. You must have been drunk. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, when he in reality was the drunk one. But in the end, he made me think or feel, right? I was crazy. I did this, and I just went into hiding after a while. And like everybody going through, I had a few public incidences, where I was just so wrapped up in my head. And being an Aspie, I get overwhelmed quickly. So if you're yelling at me and you're coming at me with, they call it word salad, and he was super good at interrogation. Yeah, I thought I was nuts, man. I didn't get it. Nothing was making sense to me. And then he's out telling the world, oh, he was the victim. He was the victim. I used him. I was a liar. I was stealing. I was an addict, alcoholic. I was cheating. Okay. And in reality, he was doing anything he could for people finding out that he had substance abuse issues. And he didn't want anybody to find out. In fact, people still, at the end, when he's trying to set things straight, are calling him a liar. And they're saying, I'm doing it all, right? He's the one that wanted to go public and tell everybody the truth, and to set things, quote, set things right. Because he'd already destroyed my reputation with everybody, and and told, how the kids were taking advantage of him, and I was ruining his relationship with the kids, and all of this. I am so thankful that I have a good relationship with my kids, um, because they're the ones that would look at me and go, "Don't you dare believe what he's saying." No, Mom. And I'm like, "Was it really? Did I?" And they would be like, "No." Everybody in many people in our neighborhood, um, neighbors had called police. Now, I don't, he probably told people that they called the police on me, but it was on him. Um, and I always bailed him out. It's not his fault, he needs psych help, and he did. He did. Um, we'll skip to that because my husband was rated by the VA without him looking for it, okay? When he was rated with a disability, it was a 70% total disability. They eventually made it permanent and total, 70% with permanent and total. So it was like he had 100%, and that was in 2017. And then in 2019, we got a letter. A letter comes from, and it said, "We have now rated you at 100% permanent and total PTSD disabled." Along with that was this 1.5 pages, single spacing, of what they based that on. Okay? And their criteria for 100% PTSD are things like inability to take care of oneself, forgetting things, even forgetting names, places, where you are, total blackouts, um, unprovoked anger, and violent episodes. Substance abuse is included in there. Inability to maintain close personal relationships. Difficulty getting into civilian life. You can't keep a job. That's true. Got fired from everything. Because I now know it was that he was drinking. Apparently, even, which I didn't know, when he was doing chemo and then going to work. Yeah, I didn't know that. And unprovoked anger, highly suspicious, paranoid, like seeing and hearing things that weren't there. I mean, they just lumped all of this together. Homicidal and suicidal ideations and talk. Yeah, it is this whole list of things. So it was really, really, really helpful to me when I started listening to these things about narcissism, because I had a person on the mental health team say, "Well, military doesn't call it this, but you listen to this, because this is going to help explain your husband and what's going on." And being like super like honest most of the time, always, usually. Um, but there were a handful of years, I promise you, I just, I almost like just gave up. I didn't know what was real. I didn't know what reality was. I'm just like, to heck with it. But the crazy didn't stop, right? I know my husband loved me, and everything, and he would frequently tell me I don't know, 3 to 6 months or something, he'd have this real honest moment, and he'd go, "I love you. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Um, I don't know why I'm like this. I don't want to be mean. I want to treat you well." And he'd go through periods where he did. Um, and then once he got fired for the last time, and is just up and down with the cancer and the hormone treatments. He would have his moments when he got involved with the immoral woman. He was hell on wheels. He was horrible. He was supposed to be getting help so that he could come back home and learning how to incorporate into living at home peacefully for longer than 3 days. And no, instead he was so suspicious. Like, I've got videos of him, where he had taped himself coming to the house and like, oh yeah, she's got another man there, and blah 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 blah. And he had convinced himself. He even said this in his videos, that I was going to cheat on him. I mean, he was obsessed, to the point tracking me. I mean, shoot, he tracked his immoral woman too. And I call her that because I contacted this woman thinking maybe she doesn't know, or even she knew about me, maybe what she'd been told, right? So that's what I contacted her for, not like I was gonna kill the biatch. I mean, I did put a couple things out there personally at first, but when I realized he was having this relationship with her, I thought, you SOB. And I was more mad at him than, of course I'm mad at him. I'm like, I don't care. There's no excuse for this. Not even any, And then, nope, she turned it around. She attacked me. She was very slanderous, guilty of libel. And she just thought she was like Little Miss Perfect, and how dare I contact her, and who the hell did I think I was, and blah blah blah. She's just a lovely person. That's total sarcasm. And I do pray that she learns to stay out of her ways, because she is a very self-righteous Seventh-day Adventist. I don't know. Maybe immorality is approved of in the Seventh-day Adventist group. I wouldn't think so, but what do I know? And so if you're the wife or of a wounded warrior and you just feel crazy, don't necessarily give up on them. Stay safe, whatever it takes to stay safe. I mean, I don't know. I never gave up on him. I was there through the whole thing, doing the best I can to keep me and the kids safe, and to help him. I always missed him. I always wanted him. I could never understand what was going on, but he would cycle. And when he was with the tramp, doing that stupid crap, his cycle was 72 hours. 72 hours. Of course, that was his guilt, like he said later. He felt guilty, and he couldn't tell me. And couldn't tell me about his substance misuse after all the big deal he made about it, and that he'd blame me, because then everybody would know he was a liar. And then he couldn't tell me about her, and she'd say she used it against him, apparently. Well, what would she think if she found out about me or what you'd done? Crazy. But yeah, I'll start off. I'm going to put the thing from Raw Motivations in the description box. And again, if you're listening to this and you are not the wife of a wounded warrior, and you get your feelings hurt, that's your fault. That's your problem. I am not going to be silent, because knowledge is power. If I would have known my husband had substance abuse issues, we could have done so much more. I got to experience my sweet Sarge in a straight-on no change for the last, for no lying that I knew of. I mean, maybe he did, for 3 months, 12, 13 weeks. Because the first part of his hospice, when he basically came home to die, um, there was a lot we were working out. I mean, the whole time up until 2 weeks before he died, we were having, maybe it was 1 week. Well, it was right before Thanksgiving, so maybe it was just the last week. We weren't meeting with therapist or a psychologist or a sponsor. He had sponsors. Um, anyway, so I mean, there was a lot we were working out, and at the end, they were just telling him, and apparently they told him, he just didn't listen. No, a few times he tried to pull. Well, he actually really didn't, because when I started going with him, um, in on the meetings, because he couldn't really get out the last 4 months. Was it 4 months? Yeah. But don't give up. Don't give up. Keep praying for him. Um, my faith, which there were times I barely hung on to it, barely hung on to sanity by the thread of a spider's web, single strand, for sometimes it felt like. But anyway, you're not alone. Um, nobody is all good or all bad. So I don't like just labeling somebody and um, running off with that. I'm trying to learn to love my sweet Sarge, to love the good, and get the bad out of my head. Because I do know he did love his kids, all of them. He did love me, truly. I've gotten to have some validations that he told my kids to do things, well, our kids, to buy me things or to do things that he didn't tell me. So, because before he'd always do things for the glory or to be noticed. And the only way I knew about it was they told me, or I want you to tell your mom this, or can you help me get this for your mom? And it was all three of my living kids. He told that to, and they came to me at different times. It was a blessing. So I don't know. There's a little bit of hope. There's always hope. Have hope. There you go. That's all for now. That was a lot of rambling, but take care. Be blessed, and just praying for anybody that ever listens to any of these, that you'll find hope. So we'll talk later.